Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We're going to let everybody into the room. So inshallah, bear with us for a couple minutes while we allow everyone in.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Let's give it one more minute. We had over 100 people that registered. We have 24 in the room presently. Okay, kudos to the people who come on time. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Susan Labadi. I'm a board member of CISNA, and I am welcoming you to join us today as we have our second principles panel. Specifically, we're going to be looking at what these principles have done. They have survived. I see smiles on their faces. We had a wonderful conversation started before you joined us, and so I hope that it will continue. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the members also on my team of Sister Sufia Azmat, who is the Executive Director of CISNA. We have Leila Shatara, who is our President. We have Osma Shinawi Khan, who is also on the board, as well as Ibrahim Youssef, who is on our board as well. Also joining us today, we're going to have Brother Shaka Rashid out of Indiana, who is so kind as to share his experiences. Prior to them each presenting, I will give a little bit of a bio on them, and then I will have them take it away. But before we begin, I wanted to check in with Sister Sophia. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we kick it into gear?
Assalamu alaikum. No, I'm just trying to get everybody in. I had a few messages where some people weren't able to for some reason. Just working on that, inshallah.
Okay, thank you then. Inshallah, the recording will be made and will be distributed. And you can always go to our YouTube channel, which we have now under CISNA, as well as on the CISNA website, cisnausa.org, so that you can catch our resources that we have posted there as well. So with that, we wanted to begin, inshallah, with Ibrahim Youssef, who has been involved with Islamic schools for 12 years and has worked with Islamic schools in St. Croix, Houston, Pittsburgh, and Nashville. He is currently the principal at Nashville International Academy, established in 1995. Ibrahim believes the work of schools is rooted in creativity, compassion, communication, and the strong will to get things done. And heaven knows, principals have a lot to do. So please tell us about your experience, Brother Ibrahim.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Thank you, Sister Sue. First, I would like to acknowledge CISNA for organizing these programs. It's just a great reminder, that no one is an island, and that our collective IQ and wisdom and experiences are always, greater than individual IQs. And thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to CISNA for always organizing these great programs. For our school, our first day of school was this past Wednesday, August 12th. students started attending their online classes. So we are fully online for the first quarter at least. And our first day was on Wednesday. But in the days leading up to Wednesday, Monday and Tuesday, we also had events. We had a virtual open house on Monday night, and then we had orientation sessions on Tuesday. I think both orientation and open houses were important events. For the open house, it was mostly just me talking about the theme, talking to the community about the theme for the year. And our theme is Stronger Together. And the emphasis was on the notion that even though our traditional campus is inaccessible, and even though we're unable to meet in person, we can still remain connected and keep alive our mission of learning and our mission as a community. And that's really what was the highlight of the open house. I shared a fable about 3 villages that lived on top of 3 neighboring mountains, and that the people of the village, of each village, they made it a point every day to walk down to the valley to meet their neighbors, play games, exchange ideas, break bread together, and even buy and sell from one another. Until one day, their precious valley got flooded at night, and the water kept rising and rising until this huge lake formed between the villages and the mountains. But people woke up in the morning and they got to work on building this floating platform on the lake to make sure that their traditions and their story continued. And of course, there was more details to the fable, but of course, as you know, I drew the parallels and as emphasized that we're stronger together if we work together. This is only a transitional period, and that ultimately we will go back to our valley, so to speak. We will go back to campus and resume in our mission. I also try to reassure parents that there will be growing pains when it comes to the technologies, but not to worry. Teachers will orient parents and students, and I pointed them to embedded tutorials that we've uploaded online, some that we screencasted ourselves, and that if they ever feel stuck, they can go and access the tutorials, or they can call our front office who is tech support, who has become tech support. That was my focus during open house. I also talked about our budget and the kind of purchases we had to make, and that and I tried to convey that their children will have access to rich content and curriculum and digital tools. And of course, before this open house, there was a town hall early in July actually, where I communicated the mission of the school, or the mission of this online program, just to prepare students for the 21st century and to transmit to them the necessary skills and technological literacy and digital expression that they will need, and that would help them. So the community they were on board already before open house, and they understood the importance of this mission. So that was, I just covered that a little bit as well. I reminded them of our direction. And of course, the following day, after open house on Tuesday, we had orientation. And the teachers had already sent their Zoom invites to students and parents. And during the sessions, during the Zoom, the orientation sessions, the teachers went into more details about the curriculum, the schedule, the usernames and passwords, and just a list of things that I had emailed teachers beforehand. A week earlier, I had emailed them about just like 10 things that they could talk about during their orientation sessions. Before all this, of course, everything was ready. Our online platform was ready. Our Google Classrooms were ready. Our Bitmoji rooms were ready. Teachers had received training. Our induction week was successful. Before induction week, teachers also watched tutorials that just taught them the technologies and the tech tools out there. So we were ready, alhamdulillah. And then lo and behold, on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, the first 3 days of school, fully online, alhamdulillah, we all witnessed something amazing. Our students were on time. They were moving seamlessly from one Zoom session to the next. I think the architecture that we had built using Google Classroom and Google Slides and Bitmojis is somewhat of a virtual building that, that students were entering and leaving and re-entering Bitmoji rooms and offices and hallways as if they were there. And the first 3 days we've seen, I have second graders, uploading videos on Flipgrid and sharing their hopes and dreams. So one of the things we do is hopes and dreams. Students got to express their hopes and dreams in a live video on Flipgrid. I had 10th graders screencasting and sharing tutorials with their classmates and other, and 9th graders and 8th graders. KG students entering Bitmoji classrooms and clicking on Zoom links and waiting in the waiting room, just all alone, independently. So alhamdulillah, the first 3 days, the engagement has been, off the charts. In fact, one teacher told me, principal, we worried about engagement so much. And that's true, because we spent 2 days during induction week talking about how to make synchronous learning and asynchronous learning student-centered and engaging. And the teacher was like, they're engaged, we don't have to do anything. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. What do you mean you don't have to do anything? But the architecture, I think, of our program has proven to be just this virtual reality that's enjoyable to navigate. And I just wanted to see if I can share that here. Yes, I can. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share. So this is my office. Okay. I have a thing for impressionism, paintings. So students start here, in this office. I've sent them the link. I sent them a screencast to them and the parents that this is where they start. They start in this office, and I made this accessible, this link accessible to people, but I changed the share settings to view only or viewer only. So they come in here, and if they come and they click on my laptop here, they can directly access the Zoom meeting, right? And they understood that when it's time for assembly, morning assembly, they come to the principal office and they enter, the morning assembly room here. And I also always keep this open. I keep my Zoom session running for about, an hour in the morning to see if any students are having difficulty. And they come back. They come back and they click on it and they enter my Zoom session. I keep it open. And while they're here, I also tell them, okay, guys, go ahead. While they're with me in the morning, I tell them, go ahead and go to your classrooms. And they also understood beforehand through my screencasting tutorial that when they finish here, they go to the student lounge. So they go down to the student lounge, and let's say a first grader wants to go to first grade, they simply click here and they go to Miss Aqsa's, the first grade teacher's Bitmoji room, and they go to Miss Aqsa's classroom, and they can also access the Zoom link here. The Zoom links are all unified. They're on different laptops in the rooms. And from here, I'm sorry, let me make sure that you can see my screen. Yes, you can. And then from here, they can also navigate to their other classes. So there's a schedule here, and they can immediately go to their other classes. So if they have Islamic studies later, they can go to, Mrs. Islamic studies teacher, Miss Suad, and similarly, she has her Zoom link right here. Right? And I see students throughout the day. It shows who's on here at the top. Students throughout the day just navigating and going through the different slides. This is the student lounge for 6th through 10th grade. And they can go, if they have, let's say they have ELA, Dr. Karen's Bitmoji, they can also access it and enter their Zoom sessions here. Similarly, the same goes for our middle and high school students. Sometimes I come in, and they're just hanging out here. They like our conference room. I have a conference room with all the, Muslim athletes. In fact, I had to tell them on Friday, like if you see, all the students come in here. They come, they enter, and they leave. Enter and leave. There's a whole report. At one point I had to tell them, let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Go to class. So they just enjoy being here and navigating the Bitmojis. And of course, this is just, if you go also to the different classrooms, let's say, for example, second grade, Jackie's classroom. From these classrooms, they can also access, their online platforms, their digital platforms, curriculum platforms. There are references to the actual building. We have the 3 C's that we follow: the school rules, build the conscience, build compassion, and be in control. There's references there to, in the Bitmoji, and every Bitmoji classroom has a schedule for the students. So that's just the, that has been the architecture that has made this just a very engaging experience. But of course, we still faced some tech challenges, parents as well as teachers had some tech challenges, but I think the challenges were normative, nothing detrimental. I wouldn't worry too much about the tech challenges. They're normative, the students getting locked out of their email because they tried their password many times. The Zoom link, people not being able to find the Zoom link. And also, some parents are not very well versed in things that we take for granted. For instance, one parent called me and he's like, yeah, brother, I can't find those Google sliders. I think the brother is in the restaurant business. So I just had to talk to him about, where to go. And then another parent wasn't comfortable with his children using email, right? And he was like, I don't know, I don't want to give them email. I don't know what they're going to do with the email. So some of the things that we take for granted, I think we had to also just talk to parents about it. So we had tech support, and I was also just, parents have my phone number, so they call me as well. Let's see, in terms of enrollment, it wasn't as bad as we had worried about. We worried that we were going to lose enrollment. We lost about maybe 16 students. But the majority left because they couldn't afford the tuition. And it wasn't necessarily because they didn't believe in the direction that we were taking. They just, they had, financially they had a hit because of COVID, and they could no longer afford the tuition. I anticipate that we will have to do more fundraising this year, and we would have to do it differently. We can't wait for the annual gala. We would have to start sort of arranging, I think, for events and programs within the first semester, within the first few months. Our current budget, is about $850,000. It was higher last year. This year, that's the current budget, and our projected income is about 546. So we're about 250,000 short. We've usually made up for it in fundraising and stuff. So we're going to have to sort of up the game on that this year. But it's not as bad as we had thought. It's not an existential threat, so to speak. I think that was one of the biggest worries, that this is an existential threat. I think if your parents and your communities believe in the necessity of Islamic schools, and the function of Islamic schools and how they serve, and the purpose that the Islamic schools serve, and there's also trust. I think there's an existing infrastructure, and there's an existing relationship, a trusting relationship between the school and the community. I think many schools have nothing to worry about. I would emphasize during an open house that, hey, Islamic schools are still your safest bet. Students can express their Islamic identity online freely, and this is still a place for them to feel comfortable, to express themselves and be themselves without having to worry about, just the social pressures, online social pressures. That's something you could also include in your orientation or open house. And that's it.
I think with most things, as long as you get prepared, you know, it makes things flow much more smoothly. And I like how Bitmoji Classroom seems to normalize the experience. So we do have a question about, is there a tutorial on how to set it up? And I was thinking to myself, did you have to arrange all of it, or did you have professional help? Were there teachers that were building this Bitmoji school, if you would? How did that work for you?
No, we built it ourselves. We took the tutorials, we watched the videos. There is a wealth of information online on YouTube that we've watched, and I built the school. You know, the main Bitmoji office, my office, the conference room, the student lounges, and the teachers back in July built their own Bitmoji classrooms, and I just embedded them into the student lounge. And our vice principal also sort of embedded the curriculum links as well, that teachers were able to copy and paste directly to their own Bitmoji classrooms. So no, we spent a good 2 weeks just building this up and linking everything. Yeah, absolutely. But it's all available online. On YouTube, it's all available online, and you can do it.
Well, it's wonderful. Everybody has to go to the principal's office before they get to go to the morning assembly. So
right.
check in time.
Exactly. Yeah.
You'll know who's there and who's not there.
Right.
Very well. I appreciated how you mentioned, that you shared the fable, because coincidentally, personal information here. My neighborhood was hit by a bad tornado, and it wasn't until like last night that we just got electricity back up. But all the neighbors were coming out and meeting each other many times, for the first time, and everybody was pitching in and everything. And I was able to, just off of my phone, attend a webinar that I found very interesting, talking about the mental health of students and some of the points that were being made, especially, COVID and how we're so isolated from each other. It's more important than ever now to connect. And I see that evidenced with the relationships I now have with my neighbors. Even though the power went up, I went out with my cup of coffee looking for my neighbors to go and chat with, which I never did before, because it just sort of became our quasi-family for the time. And it was a little bit sad to not see them, because everybody's inside their houses and trying to get things cleaned up from the big mess that came from the tornado that pulled through. But an important point that was made in the webinar I attended yesterday on student mental health was that when you become emotionally and mentally weak, you become so internalized that you're oblivious to the other. And kindness and grace is really more contagious than this virus. So the message was, we need to make that little extra effort. People, I think, are craving it. When you have a cashier, even if you have a mask on, make eye contact. Your eyes will smile. You will connect with each other. Engage in a little bit more conversation than perhaps you normally would, because this is how we get through this together. And another thing that was mentioned is that there are many generations before us and many other people around the world who have difficulties much greater and more grave than this. And yet we are wired to be very resilient, but we just need to, I think, believe in ourselves and recognize that Allah has made us so that we're able to handle whatever He dishes out to us, and it's for us to look for those silver linings. So thank you so much for your kind advice, and I hope that people will really look into the Bitmoji Classroom, because I think it does have a lot to offer for somewhat kind of normalizing, gamifying, if you would, making it a friendly place to come and show up, because people are probably not feeling that as much as they normally would if they can't be present on campus in the virtual sense. With that, I'd like to move to our next speaker, which is Sister Uzma Shinawi Khan. She's a Texas certified principal and has over 22 years of experience in education. She's also a CISNA board member. This is her 11th year as principal of Good Tree Academy in Plano, Texas. Uzma is a certified appraiser for Texas Teachers Evaluation and Support System, acronym TTES, and Texas Principal Evaluation and Support System, TPES. They always do things big in Texas, right, Uzma?
Yes, they do. Jazakallah khair, Sister Sue, and Jazakallah khair, Brother Ibrahim, for this wonderful information. I really love your Bitmoji School. That is the one missing link that I've been thinking. And before I go any further, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. To piggyback on what Brother Ibrahim said earlier, the beauty of this principals panel and so many other events, online events that took place, has made me realize that we are not alone and that all of us can share experiences. Because over the years, in order to grow as a principal, as an educator, I have attended numerous workshops. And I would always find public school principals that I have become to familiarize with just by face, because we are always in the same workshops. But I would look around and I would miss that there are no Muslim principals here, because they have different resources, they have different concerns. We have different resources and we have different concerns. But however, I believe what CISNA and has offered is beautiful. And it's nice to know that there are so many of you doing amazing things that we can learn from and we can improve. And my today's note is the Bitmoji School for myself. So a little about how we opened. So our first day was yesterday. So we've only had 1 day's worth of experience in opening. We decided to go totally virtual for at least the first marking period, which is the first quarter. And like every other school, we did the same thing. We had a town hall in July. We informed the parents of the different options that we were working on. Our 3 options were totally virtual, hybrid, or fully on campus. So we shared with them that most probably we will start in baby steps. So that's what we are trying to do. We have opened as totally virtual, totally online, but we are constantly monitoring what other schools are doing. Our governor has closed the school till September 7th. So even public schools will be opening on September 8th, and many private schools are also doing the same. So inshallah, we are hoping that we can see how, with all the precautions that are being taken, is there a spread of COVID in school? If it's not, is it safe? And then we can also take the baby steps. We pride ourselves always calling our community the Good Tree family. And that was my focus in planning everything. In our family, we have the students, we have the teachers, and we have the parents. So when we were planning on reopening the school, my conversations in our team meetings were always, we have to cater to all the family members. What is going to be working for our parents, what our different students needed, and we are a pre-K through 12th grade school. So we had to take into account 3-4-year-olders, 5-year-olders. And we also offer Montessori in our primary years. So our 3 to 6 years old are in a primary Montessori setting, which is a very different environment. So the way we planned, looking at these areas, one is environment, which they will be missing because they are in an online form. The other is focus on content. Parents' concern was that if it is online, is the content going to be affected? And the third was communication. So these are the 3 areas that we focused on. And the one step we took, we decided to take as much environment to their homes as we could possibly do. So in a Montessori setting, the materials are important to set up the environment. We decided to make individual student packets. We ordered more, we invested a little more, and we have shared each individual packet with the student for their home. So when the teacher is teaching, the student is also learning in the same form. We also decided to do weekly or bi-monthly drop-offs and pickups. That was another concern that we had experienced in spring, parents concerning with too much screen time. So we decided that we will address that need. When it came to content, we had numerous professional development opportunities in which we discussed that our focus, if we end up being in an online setting longer than we expect, then our focus should be the powerful standards. Like Sister Sue said, Texas is big on these things. So another acronym is the TEACS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And for each subject, they have 20, 30 standards. So our task as teachers was to pull out the powerful standards that are absolutely important for students to master in order to be ready for the next grade level. So my communication with my team was to focus on the powerful standards, which means revamping the curriculum maps. And those are some of the things that we as educators did before we could open the school. That is what we have been working on. And like you, Brother Ibrahim, and I'm sure like many of you, this past week has been a week of events. We had online open house, we had online orientation, then we had online teacher meet and greet. On Tuesday, we had it for our Montessori and our elementary. And Alhamdulillah, it was really smooth. Parents were in the online orientation with me, where I introduced the majority of the steps and the staff. And then each teacher had already shared their Zoom link. Parents were able to go into different Zoom classes to meet and greet with their teachers. And then Wednesday, we did the same for our middle and high school. And on Thursday, we had an all-day drop-off. So we had groups of families by their last name, and we gave 2-hour windows to 4 to 5 groups of letters. So A through D was 8 to 10 a.m. And we set out tables outside. According to the letters, families drove up. The books and materials were ready. Teachers put them in their trunk. We had another booth for Chromebooks, which we have lended to our parents. And those who had completed the form, we had another station. Parents would stop by the tables, get their books, drive further down, go to the Chromebook booth, get their Chromebook, and they would drive away. So it was really convenient. For the parents, alhamdulillah, regarding communication, we have offered a knowledge center in which all the online resources are easily available to the parents. We have adopted the Remind app, and that is another thing that was very convenient for teachers to use and for parents to start. And teachers can, it's an app that you can have on your phone. Teachers can open it on their laptops. Teachers are instructed in the morning when they sign in to their classroom, they should have the Remind app open as well. They can send announcements, they can send individual messages. Hey, your homework is late, grades are posted. Our grades are still posted in our school management system, which is Sycamore. So when that's what I shared with the parents, that you don't have to worry about running between 3-4 different sites. When the teacher posts the grades, they will send you a message, an announcement on the Remind app. And when you receive the announcement, you can click, go to Sycamore, and you can see your child's grades. So you don't have to worry about going on the school management system till you receive a message from your teacher. So I believe, because our parents concerned, and we all know our Islamic school parents, they are mashallah very involved. They would like to know every grade, they would like to know every homework. And as long as we can provide a clear format for them to reach that information, to receive that information, I think it's a good relationship. Another thing that I felt, it's very important, because these are different times, and that's what I kept telling our parents, that where there is a will, there is a way. And these past few months, if they have taught us anything, they have taught us that we can celebrate, we can recognize each other, we can learn, we can do anything even if we are not able to be together. We have found ways to do graduation ceremonies. In the same manner, we found orientation. We found how to do all of that. So when we have that faith, and alhamdulillah, mashallah, our parent body is amazing. They had a lot of faith, they were happy. I, in the orientation, added a poll. And the poll was, would you like frequent communication, or how frequent? And then I opened a lunch with the principal. Maybe every 2 weeks, if we need to do it, we can do it every week initially, so that there's an open Zoom room where parents can just come in and they can share their concerns. They can say, hey, you're doing this thing great. Hey, this can be improved. We want to know from them so that there's no buildup. We don't want to find out when a parent is so frustrated that they are ready to pull out their child because they don't have access to certain information. So our goal was that everything that a parent could need should be available, everything that a student needs is available, and everything that a teacher needs is available. So alhamdulillah, majority of our parents, they voted for afternoon time. So we didn't have coffee with the principal. We decided to do lunch with the principal, and we will have these open sessions where parents will be able to come in and share their questions. We also sent a lot of surveys in the past when we went online, and parents like that. That was another easy mode of communication for us. And we assured them that we will be doing the same. So inshallah, we open Friday. I'm hoping by next Friday, we will be sending out our first survey to see how their experience was in the first week of school. So we tried to meet all these expectations. We had some parent concerns in the past about screen time, that there's a lot of screen time for students and that it gives them a headache. So one of the things that T-Test teaches all the teacher is that I teach, we teach, you teach. So I learn, we learn, you learn. So the teacher first teaches the student, and then the students are supposed to work in small groups. And then the third thing, they are supposed to work individually. So although the class time is still 85, 90 minutes, but the teacher is only supposed to actively teach for 15, 20 minutes. And then we had numerous professional development opportunities where the teachers learned how to go into breakout rooms in Zoom. So teachers can do the breakout rooms and students can be in small groups in which they can do the we learn. And then they will be doing things on, we decided to introduce notebooks. We decided to introduce loose leaf paper more instead of everything online. So if a student has to do an assignment, they don't have to necessarily still be on computer. The teacher will be sitting there available for them as a facilitator after the first 20, 30 minutes, but the rest of the time student can work, and that is something that will be exchanged in our weekly drop-offs and pickups. So alhamdulillah, so far these things, parents have shared really good feedback with us, even in the very first day, that they are very happy with what is being done. Yes, we did lose enrollment, but majority of it is, like Brother Ibrahim said, due to the financial reasons, and some we lost because the first and second graders, they are, the parents feel they are both working, they cannot help if they are online. And those are the things that I am keeping in mind if we need to go hybrid. Another thing that I have done, and I think it has really made some parents happy, I haven't been able to reach out to everyone, is to reach out to all the parents who have left and have individual meetings with them and ask them if they would like to come back as soon as we go hybrid. Because some of them are waiting for that. And that will give us an idea that how many of our families are ready to come back. So far, the few families that I've met with, they are saying, give us a call and we would love to come back the very next day, as soon as you go hybrid or on campus. So that's another thing that has really worked for us. For PE, we have introduced an app. Our coach has introduced an app through which it is, I believe it is called the My Tracker app. It's called Goals Fitness. And that is the app that he would like to share with the high school students. So when he asks them to go for a jog, do some exercise, it tracks it and they can share it with the coach. So this is really, because PE was a big concern. So I feel I'm really excited about that. And hopefully, inshallah, we hope that it will be a good start. And we will see. We are learning from every one of you. And we would like to constantly be able to improve. So wish you all the best. Those of you who have not opened yet, it's difficult, it's stressful, but it just happens. You just do it because you have gotten into the flow of doing it and you have learned how to do things differently. And last night was the first night that I slept well in like so many months because we finally opened. So your time is also coming, hang in there. Thank you so much.
Sister Uzma, your calm and confident demeanor is very inspiring to all of us. And here's an important point. The principal is the leader that everyone will look to for their cues. So, put on your poker face if you have to, but you need to seem to be calm, strong, and confident that everything is going to be fine. And inshallah, with Allah's help, it all will. I appreciated so much how you mentioned about how you distributed with a drive-by. In my town, we've got a recycling extravaganza. So if you have books, you go to a certain station. If you have electronics, you dump them off at a certain station, but you've done it in reverse. So you go to different stations to pick up all of your supplies. Ingenious. Also, I liked how, you mentioned about parents being very concerned about too much screen time. And so I'm wondering, how many principals are actually thinking about the parents' difficulties, their perception that, I know parents that they just feel exhausted after their first day of school. So are you also communicating with the parents, this is what you need to do to help yourselves get through this? It's something important. And you also reached back out to the parents that initially didn't get on board. And I'm sure that they will welcome that opportunity to be re-invited back into the school. Inshallah, that will work in your favor. So thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, everyone, please put them into the group chat. We will, pop the questions as we probably can here and there. And then, of course, at the end, I'll just review everything as well. So last call for any questions for Sister Uzma. Great ideas there. Thank you for sharing. All right. Let's move on then. We have Brother Shaka Rashid, who has been the principal of Iman School in Indiana for 10 years. He has served as an imam, masjid and school founder, and board member. Brother Shakar has taught chemistry at the university level and still teaches college level chemistry to Iman students. I should have had you as my tutor because I really didn't do very well in chemistry, Brother Shakar, but pleased to meet you. Welcome joining us. You are muted.
Don't feel bad, Sister Susan, that you're the majority of people hate chemistry, including me when I was younger.
We just needed a good teacher. Too bad I didn't have you then.
Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. It is truly humbling to be among you guys. You really, I always think you need to be a superhero to be a principal, and certainly of an Islamic school. And now with the challenges of COVID-19, you need to be a superhero because you have to deal, when I listen to Brother Ibrahim and what he has done over the summer to create all that platform, I was almost sure that he did all by himself. I can't imagine the amount of effort he had to put during his summer break to create that. And it's wonderful. I think all of these things I'm sure they're appreciated by the parents and by everyone. So thank you so much for inviting me to talk today. We are actually we have been open for 2 weeks, and for mainly the model is hybrid flex, in which the students come to in class for 5 days out of the 10 days. So the way it works is that you have boys' days and you have girls' days. So Monday and Tuesday, that's when the girls come to school. And Thursday and Friday is when the boys come to school. Wednesday is rotational. So the first week is reserved for the girls, for example. So they have a long girls' week. Then they have a long boys' week. So the first week of school, which started August 3rd, the girls came for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and the boys came for Thursday and Friday. The following week, then it starts again with the girls coming Monday and Tuesday, but then the boys come on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it's easy to follow. It is easy to track. This model was presented to the parents through Zoom session during the summer to explain to them how we're planning to open school. Of course, there you had the skeptical, you had the people with questions. And we never change our model. And this was very much, we just made some adjustments. So initially, we wanted Wednesday to be off so we can disinfect the building and things like that. But then we felt that it's unnecessary. Actually, most of our worry was that the public school will open 100% in class, and now, we will have, the board was concerned about major issue with enrollment and things like that. But it turned out to be that, the public school did not open, and they postponed opening in class until the Labor Day. Again, my school is in Indiana, and it's suburban Indianapolis. So it's a northeast of Indianapolis, about 3 hours away from Chicago. So we're Midwest, and we go from pre-kindergarten to 12th grade. So, our pre-kindergarten is 100% in class. So we had to cut our enrollment to half. We made that decision. So we are only taking half of the number of kids. Kindergarten to 12th, it's full enrollment, and it's in class and on Zoom. The way it works is a kind of unique. The way we planned it is that half of the students are in the class and half of the students are watching the class through Zoom. So we had to buy a lot of hardware to allow for the broadcasting of the classroom. And this is a unique model we borrowed from one neighboring university, and we didn't know if it's gonna work at all. We had to experiment with the hardware and things like that, and consult with experts in that area, which, people who did that at the university level. So the way it works, like when on Monday and Tuesdays, when the girls are in class, the boys are actually checking in through the virtual environment through Zoom, and they're attending the same exact class with the same exact teacher, participating in the same exact class. They can see the whiteboard, they can see the teacher, they can join in the discussion, which I believe worked perfectly for high school and even middle school and some elementary. We have challenges with the younger kids, with kindergarten to 3rd grade, or at least to kindergarten and 1st grade. It's a challenge. I'll talk a little bit about that when it's time. But some parents wanted, of course, to come 100% to school. So we had, of course, if I opened the floodgates, everybody wanted to be in school. But we had to actually apply scrutiny to that, and we said we will only accept it in dire situations. So that's the threshold we applied for kids to come 100% in school. And once we said dire situation, then that was limited to probably 5 families. Initially, even we wanted to open it 100% for our staff, but then I pulled back and I said, no, only in dire needs, because I was really worried, getting slightly concerned because of the surge in our outside environment. You have to worry about, of course, the city and what's happening in the state. And, the numbers has been creeping up, and we're starting to have a surge in the cases of COVID. So I wanted to be more conservative. And especially that public school didn't open, so I didn't feel the same pressure. Okay, public school is going distant learning until Labor Day. So I said, I will have more leverage to say, what, I'm not taking anybody 100% in class. I'm only taking 50% in class and 50% virtual. There is some parents who decided to go 100% online, and that was fine for us. Actually, that's the whole idea behind building a very strong virtual system, not as good as Brother Ibrahim described, but we invested most of our time and money into building the broadcasting system. So, we thought, if you're at home, you still attend the same classes with the same, hopefully, environment. So, a lot of parents felt comfortable just resorting to 100% distant learning. Many of them were scared because of the surge, and many of them wanted to watch and see. I mean, do we go in school and we have no COVID cases, or we start to have an outbreak at the school once the kids come to the school? So we just finished our first 2 weeks, which was
Brother Shaker, you've become muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so you had the kids finally attended their full schedule. So the boys attended 5 days, the girls attended 5 days, and you had, your full schedule played. And I'm very pleased, alhamdulillah, that things are actually were not as worrisome as I was worried, as the sister said. You know, you start to get finally some nights of sleep, and I want you to be confident. I think no matter what you do, as long as you put enough measures to protect the kids, you know, then it's really truly appreciated by the parents. You know, I was worried about the parents. The parents is now my least worry. The parents are very appreciative and very happy and very proud of all the layers of protections. And I could talk about this later. We put 8 layers of protections to prevent any transmission of cases inside our school. That was my biggest concern. And that's the first thing I told my teachers. You have to treat every human being that comes into the school as a carrier of COVID-19. So you have to put every measure to prevent this person from infecting other people. So now, you know, I don't know, I didn't ask for it, but it happened in the second week where I got the call I didn't want to get, where you know, one of my students, you know, contracted COVID-19, and she tested positive. And so, you know, the health department, we have a very good health department here and very helpful one. So we immediately got in contact with the health department. You know, I fired emails, of course, to parents, you know, about, you know, the case and things like that. So we dealt with that last week. It happened on Wednesday, and the health department was very proud of us. The health department was very admiring of everything we have done to protect the kids. And alhamdulillah, I believe that the measures we put in place has prevented this student from transmitting to other students. You know, none of the kids we quarantined actually showing any signs of COVID-19. None of our staff members. But of course, I had to deal with a lot of issues with the staff. I have to deal with a lot of issues. You know, the parents were quiet. A lot of them just decided to switch to distant learning. So we had a drop in the number of kids who attended in class immediately, especially in the building that was affected. You know, in this case, it was high school. So, you know, we went, I guess we had 36 kids. Now we have like 28 kids in the building. And that's, you know, we have about 90 high school kids or a little bit more than that. So it's fine. I mean, a lot of these kids, included the sick kid, attended their hybrid classrooms and participated in our classroom to the fullest extent. And we're fine with the kids. Or parents decided to go virtual. And I mean, I don't mind having less kids in the school, but I feel that they're just, you know, parents just get a freaking out. And some of them decided to go the entire semester online. Some of them just said for 1 day. I said, no, you have to decide for at least 2 weeks block. So they choose 2 weeks block, and they will wait and see. Once they know there is nobody else got sick on campus, I'm sure many of them will come to the in-class. And that's the first 2 weeks. It felt like 2 years, actually, for me. I had long hours of stress and dealing with a lot of things. And I am happy to share with you. And that's why I would leave for your questions, any questions you have about dealing with the new world of the new norm for us as principals.
We do have a lot of questions, but the first question I need to have certainty on is that your hair was gray before these last 2 weeks, right?
It was, yeah, it actually became gray once I became a principal.
There you go. Okay.
So you're talking about 10 years.
You've earned it. MashaAllah, mashallah.
So you took my question.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit some of the questions. First of all, the first one that came up to mind was sick policies. What has happened? Now, obviously, when you did find that you had a quarantine situation that had to be implemented, but I know many principals are dealing with, okay, when we do have to go into a quarantine situation is necessary in terms of policy regarding the teacher's sick leave. What have you done regarding that?
You know, I mean, you have your 2 weeks, which is taken care of by the CARE Act. In this case, in this particular case, the parent of the child is a principal, not a principal, as a teacher. So I had to quarantine the teacher as well. So she worked from home. She teach her classes through the Zoom platform. We have one person who sit with the kids who are in class to make sure, you know, they're supervised, but they link in through Zoom to the teacher who is now teaching from home. We already knew that could happen. And, you know, and she's, you know, she's paid fully for, you know, for her work. And so we don't have to deal with any issues with that. Of course, we as an administration have to supervise the kids. We have a policy not to bring someone from outside, so we're not bringing substitutes, which put pressure on us as in administration. So unless we are forced to do so, we're not bringing any substitutes from outside. We don't allow anybody to come into the building. It's completely off limit to anyone, even to the parents. And we watch everyone inside the building. So I know it's sometimes some kids complain, you know, it's like very much a prison camp, but you know, in reality, they are having fun. They love the moments that they come on campus. They are, you know, yes, they're all wearing masks and it's awkward for them, but they laugh and joke and, you know, and they do what they normally do. So it's a chill environment.
All right. To the point of the question, I will come back to you, Brother Shakir. I wanted to ask the other principals as well. Ibrahim, in terms of sick policies, can we add your update on what did you do regarding that?
Well, because we're fully online, I honestly didn't, we do have an attendance policy in place. We would have to update our sick policy in case a student extracts, you know, a COVID and they would have to miss online sessions, because our attendance policy is if you miss more than 3 sessions, then, you know, you would have to conference with the principal as a family. I imagine we would have the similar excused absences if people are sick, just as if we were in the building. So I would replicate that same policy. If it's an excused absence, it's an excused absence.
Okay. There's a difference between if a teacher is sick and cannot teach online versus can still teach online but has to be at home too. So that's something that maybe, you know, principals want to consider.
Right.
Sister Osma?
We are also online. So basically what we are doing, as long as the teacher can teach, and we have currently a teacher who is positive, but because it's online, she is a Quran teacher, so she's taking her classes and she's able to do that. For students, because we also offer an incentive program, which means if you have a certain attendance and certain grade, then you are exempt from semester 1 finals and your final exams, which we are continuing this year, even in an online. But I feel we will be lenient if somebody is positive and they have to be absent but for the staff, so far, the policy that has been given to us and that we have worked on is to follow the same. They have 5 personal days that can be used, and then the rest will remain as is. Unless it's COVID related, it's still going to be the same.
Yeah, I'm sure most states have come up from their Department of Education's, you know, what their stipulations are in terms of requirements for attendance. But, you know, each school, they have to obviously consider, this is an unusual year. Just as, you know, with grading, there was some leniency. We have to consider these things before they actually happen, but try to keep everybody on board. All right. Going back to Brother Shakir, thank you.
Sister Sue, can I just chime in on the attendance?
Please do.
Policy. One of the things, we haven't opened yet, and inshallah in the next couple of weeks, but we're also doing the hybrid model similar to Brother Shakir's. But what we're planning on doing is taking some of our staff, our non-instructional staff or teachers' assistants, and training them to become permanent substitutes for, like, if there's that 2-week or 4-week time period where a teacher is sick, not necessarily not working from home, but is actually sick and cannot teach, so that it's our own staff that step in and are trained on all the online systems and policies so that they can step in and kind of continue with the curriculum. But like Brother Shakir also said, we are minimizing the number of people that come on campus. So it's just the people that are within the system already, and we're just tailoring repurposing some of their work schedule or what they would be doing. And that's one of the things we also reinforced with our staff, because we are hybrid, that we are all going to do things that we may not necessarily have ever had to do before. and we need to be prepared to kind of step in and help each other out. And so that's one of the things that we're doing, is having like a permanent substitutes, 2 permanent substitutes ready to step in to cover classes.
Great.
And,
Okay.
and
Thank you
if
for
I may
sharing.
add that although we are online, our teachers have the option of working from campus. And some of our teachers are coming, and we have also put in place those layers of protection that they have to go through. Everyone has to be temperature checked, have the masks on, and all those measures are taken into place, even to the point of who is using copier at what time, because we are doing those packets. So some of our teachers have opted to work from the campus, and that has really helped. And we are also considering the same. If someone can absolutely not work, then it will be other teachers will step in, or the assistants will be trained, but we are not bringing anyone from outside.
Got it. Also, yeah, everybody just has to be sure that they're in compliance with what their state protocols are in terms of quarantine. Since you mentioned copier, I will say what came to my mind is that I had heard from parents complaints about when in the spring, oftentimes, you know, most of us had to go into the e-learning situation. Parents said, oh, the teacher's just giving my kids a bunch of worksheets online to do. So question to all of you principals, what are you doing about not having it just degenerate into just a lot of worksheet, busy work?
So one thing that I have encouraged teachers, and our teachers are working on it, is what I was saying through the breakout rooms. So doing more project-based and encouraging them to have projects, just like, especially for our middle and high school students, that they have to present those projects. So student has to stand in front of the Zoom and they have to present a project, working in small groups, whatever they can do. So to decrease the worksheets. So focus more on formative assessments, and formative assessments do not necessarily have to be paper and a worksheet. They could be anything that a student does. So trying to do that to decrease.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, sister. That's a big no-no, is to make now the parents, on top of everything they have to deal with, to become the teachers. So from day one, I explained that to the teachers. That's not going to happen. So they have to really do all the teaching. And for elementary, I said, even don't give them homework, just do all the work in class. And if they're on Zoom, just, you know, do the work with them, and that would be it. I will be watching carefully to that. You don't want 7 hours of school and another 2 hours of homework, because the parents have to help too during the day if the kid is doing the session from home. And we can't just have, you know, a 7 hour, that will be too much stress. And of course the parents loved it, of, you know, that, you know, where we were doing that, we're not putting any teaching hours for them. But I'm a strong believer, you know, parents cannot be teachers, you know. I mean, teachers, I mean, just like any professional work, it has to be done by the specialists. So a parent, even if they're good and great, they can't be actually the teachers. It has to be the teacher who does the teaching.
Gotcha. Ibrahim?
Yeah, obviously, you know, passing out worksheets and requiring worksheets is something that shouldn't happen even under normal circumstances. I think it's important to have a conversation with the staff about what is active learning and what does it look like, and what are the components of active learning. What happens during live sessions should also be very interactive and student-centered. Students should be, like Brother Shakir said, and Sister Uzma, about presenting, for instance. That's an example of students doing the work and not being passive, you know, passive learners. So both what happens during live sessions or what they're doing at home should be student-centered. At home, I would involve the students, yes, either in project-based learning or in just higher order thinking, right? Where they're analyzing, they're evaluating, they're creating. In an online platform, they should be producers of knowledge. They should express their learning and show it in using digital tools, you know, slideshows and using the you know, there's like VoiceThread, Flipgrid, Blabberize. There's a wealth of resources out there that students love to use, and they can get in there and express their learning and express what they've learned using these tools. And that's the highest form of learning, is when you're actually expressing and doing and applying the knowledge. So absolutely, I think worksheets and you know, being passive learners should never be a thing, you know, in this environment. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Sister Leila.
I think what's been said, you know, I second all of that's been said. And I think it's really important for teachers to understand that there has to be a shift in mindset. Like the way you did certain things in the classroom, you can't do online, like solving problems on the board and just giving instruction. That was already something we were supposed to be moving away from, but making sure that we understand the pedagogy of online learning is different than in classroom. And so making, okay, there has to be during the week of in-service, some professional development around that, the pedagogy of online learning and how to engage students. And some of the things have been mentioned, but and combining synchronous and asynchronous learning, because we don't want them in front of the screen the entire day. And how do we manage to get them to how do we keep the curriculum in mind and teaching all the curriculum that we need to without having them to sit in front of the screen? And that takes some effort. So the planning component is major. So making sure that our teachers understand the pedagogy and then giving them the skills and some ideas of how to do that once they're in the classroom.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Brother Shocker, but before I do, because there's some more questions specific to him, I noticed that Brother William White, also assistant board member, is on board with us today. Brother William, are you there? Can you share what you're doing to have your teachers avoid just doing worksheets? Lurking. All right, then we're going to move on. Brother Shocker, somebody was asking, a whiteboard are your teachers using or a virtual whiteboard in your flex hybrid situation?
Remember the teachers teaching in the class to actual students. So they have the boys only, for example, on the boys' day. So they're teaching the lesson to the boys while the girls are joining the lesson through the Zoom. As I explained before, just like watching a football game, some people are watching from the field, from the arena, and some watching from home, and they're all experiencing the same game at the same time. So the way it works, the camera would zoom on the board when they want to write on the board, so the kids at home can see the board, can see what when the teachers speak, they can hear her. Initially, of course, after investing all the time on the system, we realized the sound was tricky, so we just purchased wireless headphones. And it wasn't a problem with all the teachers. It's just some teachers speaking behind a mask is such a challenge. And some of these teachers, they already have a voice that you can hardly hear. Once you have the mask, that's another layer of, we didn't think about.
What kind of cameras are you using?
Got them a wireless headphone, and now they can just clip it to their shirt, and it's perfect.
And what kind of cameras are you using?
Can actually hear them.
The camera brand that you're using?
I explained the system we have, like called meeting broadcasting, which is Logitech system that has a combination of camera, and it has a combination of also speaker, microphone. And actually, I'm impressed honestly, we don't have much support in the technical field here. I'm very much the technical support most of the time. And I was really worried about being pulled for a lot of technical issues because, my teachers are not all tech savvies. But I'm surprised the system did not fail much, and it actually works 100% most of the time. So, once you turn on your Zoom in the classroom, the system kicks in, the camera goes on, the speaker goes on, and here we go. And the camera just magically move, you put it on the whiteboard, it goes to the whiteboard. And now after 2 weeks, the teachers are pros. They can run it just like nothing.
So they
know exactly. I mean, the teachers are very versatile in their skills, and don't underestimate them. They run these sessions like better than a tech-savvy guy who work at IT.
We're Muslim. We learn from the cradle to the grave, right?
Yeah.
One of the questions was, what hardware updates did you need to create for the online classroom using Zoom? So specific hardware updates that you used, I'll whip around for all the principals for this question.
I mean, in my case, there was like everything is done by Zoom, so there was no really particular updates. It's done automatically.
Okay.
We in order to, because we're running, the way our hybrid model works is we have a cohort in the classroom and the other half are in middle school and high school live streaming in, but we're also teaching Zoom classes, right? So for the live streaming, we did look into the different cameras, projectors, smart boards in order to have that set up. So there is quite a bit of an investment when you're going to live stream. For example, the Logitech that Brother Shakir is talking about, that was quite an investment, I imagine, if you did it for every classroom. So you need to look at a camera that's conducive to your needs. And there are several options, and the price ranges, like you can use a document camera even to broadcast. And those are fairly inexpensive compared to the Swivel or the Owl and the Logitech. So it depends on your budget and how much movement you want with your camera. For example, the document camera, you can put settings. It doesn't move with the teacher, but you can set it where it can be at the board or she can be at the desk or he. But if you have more money to invest than a Logitech or the Owl with that moves with the teacher's voice, are a good investment. And I think we can use them even after this, right? I don't think that what we're doing now ends with COVID, with technology. So it's an investment that's long-term. But I think it depends on your setting, your classrooms, and your needs. I just reaching out to companies that can do demos. We've had demos throughout the summer. And so it just depends on your specific needs and your budget as well. Mics are important, like the sound is key. When can the students hear the teacher? If the teacher moves, do you need Bluetooth? Do you need a mic, an extra equipment? So you have to just test it out before you start, and then you have to have your teachers come in and run some pilot classes to make sure that it works before the first day of school, of course.
Great. This is good stuff that we can communicate through our WhatsApp for the CISNA Leaders Group, I think, if you're still having issues or questions about using the technology and what investments perhaps you want to make. Sister Uzma?
So we had considered all these cameras that Sister Leila was just mentioning, the swivel cameras, the Owl, and I was considering if we go hybrid, our plan is something similar to what you are doing, Brother Shakir. However, we were not ready to make that kind of investment at that time, and that's what we are waiting on. So on our end, we are just waiting to see another couple of weeks. If going hybrid seems more of a something that we should be doing, then definitely this is what we are looking into. But once again, the budget is the key. Okay. And with losing students, the budget becomes even more of a challenge.
Indeed. Brother Ibrahim?
I told our teachers to go ahead and upgrade their Zoom accounts. It's like $10 or $15 a month, and that we will reimburse them. You know, when their paycheck comes through, there'll be a reimbursement. And also I encourage them to buy those ring lights. I have a ring light here as well for their Zoom live sessions. Those were requirements. And then I made it optional for them to purchase a webcam, because some webcams are better. The tech setup is just a lot better than the built-in cameras in laptops. But that's it really. Those are the only things, yeah, the only upgrades.
No, the Zoom account is owned by our school, and it's all business. It's a business account where we have full control over the entire system. I think that is important because as an administrator, I should be able to visit any of the classroom they are in session. We pay for it. We did the initial investment. Again, talking about investment, you have to think about the return of investment. And many times we just say, okay, I'm not willing to pay that much money, but it paid us off very well, especially that the CARE Act paid for all of it too. So it's really, we paid nothing, and the way it is, you know, the platform is business. Initially, of course, you have crazy numbers, $700 a month or something like that, which I didn't mind paying because it was March and I had to go 100% online and I wanted control over my classrooms. But now I think Zoom offer a lower, a monthly payment. I don't know if we're paying lower already, but it's about $400 a month. But you have the cloud, access to the cloud, recording. You can I'm the administrator, for example. I can go and visit any classroom. So you're talking about Sister Layla, about the benefit of that. We have 3 buildings, and in the past it's so hard for me to do walkthroughs into 3 buildings. Now I can do that from the comfort of my desk. I'm visiting every single classroom. Within an hour I can visit my entire school and see what's happening in the classroom. So even though it is hard, but actually there is some good to it. When I look at it, it's wonderful. I can just do walkthroughs and see every kid in every one of my buildings with a click of a button. Such a wonderful thing.
That is great.
I wonder
Shakir,
if teachers,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wonder if teachers feel the same way, Brother Shakir.
No, you're right. I mean, sometimes they push the cameras, so it's somewhere else. When I call them, I go in there and I say, this kid is not wearing mask, because I remember I have a camera that see the entire classroom. So yeah, they don't like it at all. So now they're starting to put the camera against the wall. So I've been observing.
Another question that came up, Brother Shakir, is you had mentioned you have got 8 layers in a document. Do you have like a PDF or something that you can put that out for us?
I actually
perhaps
did put it on the WhatsApp group. But
and on the ICN, please, so other people can see it as well, would be appreciated.
Again, I want to emphasize 8 layers is very expensive investment. And I understand that not every school can afford all of that. So all I'm saying is that I put 8 layers, but you probably need only 2 or 3 layers, like the mask. I did an overkill. I put too many things in place, and I realized most of the school in this world hardly have 2 or 3 layers. But that's the way it is. The mask is the most important layer. So make sure their kids, as long as they're in school, they wear the mask, all the time. Don't let them remove the mask unless they're eating their lunch. But of course, I have the sneeze guards, I have the disinfection, I have the Logitech system and the distant learning, and all of these things I'll be happy to share. I put them on the WhatsApp group, and I'll share them again. And the most important of the layers is the morning dua, as I mentioned.
Indeed. May Allah protect all of us, inshallah. So we are aspirational with your brainstorming, that we will get to the point where we need to for our safety and security. I think one of the final questions we have is that people are curious to know, what is it that you all have in terms of, 2-part question. How long is instructional time for the pre-K to 1st grade age group? And also, what is your total time span of online daily schedule that you are offering for your schools? Brother Shakir, take the lead.
I have to step out. I'm at work, so if the others can share while I take care of something.
Most certainly.
This is the reality I'm dealing with. I'm already have my mask because I have to deal with the situation.
Life of a principal.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. The question was about schedules.
Yeah, in terms of, 2-part question. How long is instructional time for the pre-K to 1st age group? And also, what's the time span of your online daily schedule?
Online is, we're having a full day, but with lots of breaks, right? 8 to 2 or 8 to 3. And for the younger kids, we're trying to do longer breaks in between and some asynchronous learning. The hybrid model on campus is actually 8 to 1:15. We opted not to have Salah on campus because we didn't want to have to deal with wudu and the kids in and out of the bathroom. So we're finishing the day early, but they will have like a later Zoom class after they get home. They may have another session, but it's pretty much a full day, but not fully on, in class, with lots of breaks.
Got it.
We have shorter hours. Our day for our preschoolers, kindergarten and preschool, it starts at 9 a.m. and it ends around 1:32, but it has lots of breaks, like Sister Layla said. 1st grade and onward, we have a full day, but we do have breaks in between. However, once again, due to the needs of the parents as well, we have the live instruction. Our teacher should be talking only 15 to 20 minutes. And then the child is okay to log off or do their work, but the teacher is available as a facilitator. If they need help, they can come back in and say, hey, miss, I need this. So, but we have a full day.
For us, we actually, we closed our pre-K3 and pre-K4. It was just a business decision. We made phone calls beforehand, and parents, there was just low interest. We had about 4 students in pre-K4, 6 students in pre-K3, or vice versa, or the opposite. I mean, but yeah, we had to close it down actually. So our pre-Kers are not online, and we will we'll reopen inshallah when we go back to the building. For our kindergarten and first grade, they have the similar schedule, online schedule. We start off at 8:45 in the morning with a morning assembly. And then there's about 30-minute increments where students are logged into Zoom for 30 minutes, and then they're on break. They're completing work assignments alone, asynchronously, and then they report back to another Zoom session after 30 minutes. So there's 30-minute increments throughout the day, and our last class ends at 3:15.
Right. Our day is normal day. Start at 8, finish at 3:30. There's kids served in class and there's kids served on Zoom. That's a challenge for elementary, as you may imagine. So for elementary, we give, we adjusted the schedule so kids who are joining from Zoom, they're not sitting in front of the screen for 7 hours. So that adjustment happened after like a week, and the teacher already adjusted the schedule. So they give like an hour of language arts and maybe an hour of math, and then they have the social studies. So you have like 4 hours instead of 7 hours of actual synchronous learning.
We also changed our schedule for our middle and high school. We also changed it to just like four classes a day. So the time is longer, but the students can log off and they can complete their work. So the screen time is cut down.
Yeah, and we're looking at for elementary instead of the live streaming in, because we have the most of our parents actually opted for remote learning, but enough opted for hybrid that we needed to open. So they're in 2 cohorts, but the students aren't going to live stream into the class. They will have Zoom classes on the days they're at home or learning remotely, and the students on site will have their classes. So they won't live stream, if that makes sense. They're actually, so half of the class is in school, the other half is in Zoom classes with other teachers, and then they switch. Because we weren't sure that, we were concerned about, first graders, like 7 and 8 year olds live streaming and watching a lesson. I'm sure that will change. I think one of the most important things, and like you've already done it, you have 1 week of classes and you realize, okay, this isn't working. We've got to make some changes. And I think that's the most important factor, is that we have to be prepared to and flexible enough to make changes based on what student needs are. And I think, parents really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I mean, and some parents may ask for to do things at home because, like especially in kindergarten, one parent said, you know what, just give me these worksheets, whatever you're doing. For the 5 days my kid is not at school, I want to take care of it so that my kid doesn't sit in front of a laptop for 7 hours. And we understand that. So we provide that service. But as you said, for high school, however, we don't have any mercy. They sit down for the full 7 periods of classes, and they are logged in for the full day of learning. However, and they have homework and they have essays and they have, so we couldn't do that because high school is very serious for us, and they have to really get the full day of learning.
I'm sure you're still merciful. I wouldn't state it quite that way.
Yeah, and merciful, of course.
Sister Bushra has mentioned that they've implemented school uniform policy, and she says to her utmost surprise, all students were in uniform. And there's also a question about, what about privacy, FERPA concerns during live streaming? What have your schools done in terms of covering your bases on those?
That's actually is a good question that always in the back of my mind. Since no parent raised it and there was no hype or problems about it, I skipped it, like to address it. But you're right. I mean, we are expecting our students to wear uniform and stand in front of a camera. And as this continue, we have a bigger fish to fry with the in class, what's going on in class, worried about the COVID situation. But this is something we must address because of the background, somebody walking behind the camera, now you have an issue in your hand. So again, so this is an important issue in my
I would probably add to that if you have that in your policy handbook, if you have the clause about opting out of footage and videos, and parents understand that they have to opt out, so it's automatically understood that we will take videos, we will take photos, and if you don't want it, you have to submit that form where you opt out. Then I think that could probably take care of it, I imagine, if it ever gets to the legal level.
I concur with that, yeah.
To piggyback on what Brother Shakir said, part of our policies will be that they have to be in school uniform, that they have to be sitting at a place, whether it's a table or desk. Like we had an issue in the spring where kids were laying in bed, on the couch, in the kitchen, their sibling walking by behind them, someone coming into not a lot, but it was enough that we wanted to make sure that they were in an environment conducive to focusing on learning. And so we were even going to tell them to sit somewhere where they have a wall to their back or something solid so that someone in their home can't walk past, because it can be an issue, like having a sibling that not knowing that the camera's on, rush past, the Zoom class. So I think being very explicit on those points about where they sit, what they're wearing, that being on time for class and all of that is really important to put out there at the beginning. As far as FERPA, I think like what Brother Ibrahim said, all we can do is tell parents, this is the way it's going to be. We have no control over this. If you have a serious concern about your child being on camera, then let us know.
And in terms of behavior, if there's a behavior issue, I see the comments in the chat box. If there's a behavior issue, I mean, the way your teachers are disciplining students should never be something to hide. If you're following a good positive discipline policy, and the disciplining is positive, right? There's reminding, there's respect, there's dignity, then that should never be an issue. In fact, you shouldn't have to worry about that. Yeah.
And I completely agree, because in the past it has happened and I had to address it, that if a student is doing something openly in front of all the other students, it does not make sense to correct them on the side secretly. As long as you're doing it with dignity and with respect and positive discipline, it's okay to do it so that others can also learn from that. We have also implemented uniform policy. We had implemented uniform policy back in March, and that really worked well for us. In fact, our uniform policy is what has encouraged more enrollment. We are still having more enrollments. Although we are losing enrollment, we are constantly, alhamdulillah, having more enrollments as well. And the only thing I tell my students that we can see you from, like torso up. I need you in good uniform. I don't need to know if you are wearing your PJs underneath, so I'm not going to hold you responsible. But for the high schoolers, if they're going to be giving presentations, if they're expected to stand and present something, then they should be in their full uniform. Otherwise, so far, half is working well for us.
And we make the good example. We're in a uniform ourselves, right?
Yes.
Indeed. Last question, because we are just about out of time, and there's a reference, if you would check the chat box. How do you address parents that sit in their child sessions? Is this a FERPA violation? We're going to have to call this the last question because of time.
We had that concern even in spring, and we tried to address it to parents. One thing that through my numerous workshops I have learned, issues that you cannot do something about, you try to reach out to their human side and try to reach out to them that way. And that's what I try to do even during the orientation, that how it is, let the teacher teach, don't be there to teach. And because this is one stress that I feel all teachers face, especially for the younger grades, they feel they are not only teaching those 20 students, now they are teaching 40 parents as well. Because we've had issues like one parent said, my child was raising the hand and the teacher did not pick on him, did not choose my child. So these issues are coming, but we are just trying to reach out to parents like that. I don't know what others are doing.
No, I agree as well. That's one variable we have very little control over, which is the home environment in its totality, right? We have little control over that. And we can continue to just be positive about reminding parents. I agree, just reminding parents, reinforcing a good behavior when you see it, you know, acknowledging students who follow the expectations and live up to the expectations. And using that very proactive approach, I think, and hope that one day that would work and you begin to see changes in behavior.
Brother Shakir?
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly challenges. Not only that, you know, a parent can come into the class, but also they can even see my class as it happened on site. They can sit and watch their, you know, the students watch the, so, you know, I attended a lot of the legal talks that you had and the IT talks, and it helped me. You know, I was worried, for example, about some IT issues, and your IT person who gave a talk one time gave me comfortable that my cameras will work fine. He had the ability to decide how many cameras specifically can be handled by my internet. So I was like, oh, that's a check. So I was very confident. I was really worried about my internet and how is it going to handle 10 cameras zooming at once. Also, the same thing for the legal issues. You had a legal session and it covered all of that. Alhamdulillah, our parents are, you know, Muslim parents who, a lot of them are so busy, none of them will be able to sit with their kids actually. So we have little of that problem to worry about. And, you know, and nobody came and said, I saw the teacher doing this in the class, you know. I guess if these start to arise and they become an issue, we will worry about them. But for now, the teacher is handling all of that stuff.
Indeed, we learn as we go along. I want to thank all of our leader principals so very much for sharing your expertise. Please let's let this conversation continue in the WhatsApp group because it is very fruitful. And I think you give a lot of comfort to those principals who have yet to take that deep dive. And inshallah, we hope that everything will go well. But, you know, if you have any difficulties, reach out to each other. We are a very strong community. There's a lot of experts that are in this room. And you made reference to Brother Ala Oda, who is our tech backup person, Brother Safaz Razur, who responds to legal concerns. So if anything comes to mind, then reach out because we're here for you. With that, I'm going to ask Sister Layla, would you give us the closing dua, please?
Okay. All right. Bismillah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
I mean, a little kindness goes a long way, so do something extra nice for yourselves. A lot of self-care in the next couple of days. Remember, you have to have everybody's floating on your back, so fill your cup first, all right? Take care, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.